a speech pathologist from a place called Booger Swamp Road, a man who changed a child's life forever, and a counteroffer that put everything on the line. What happened next on this stage left everyone speechless, and the final reveal, you will not believe it. This is the story of Robert Evans, a speech pathologist from Yadkin County, North Carolina, and yes, he actually lives on a road called Booger Swamp Road. When Robert walked onto the Deal or No Deal stage, he brought with him a heart bigger than any case on that board. Robert didn't just help children speak, he gave them a voice. He worked with kids who couldn't say a single word, spending hours and hours until they could finally communicate with the world. And tonight, he wanted to use that same determination to win big, not just for himself, but for the animals he loved. Robert had one dream beyond paying off his bills: to make a sizable donation to the Humane Society. Every abused dog, every abandoned cat, they had a champion in Robert Evans. And that champion was about to face the biggest gamble of his life. Robert chose case number 11, and with his Aunt Maddie Gay rocking in the audience, yes, that is absolutely her real name, the game began. But here's the thing about Robert that made this episode unforgettable. From the very start, the man was obsessed with soap operas. One Life to Live, All My Children, you name it. The first round kicked off, and Robert had to open 6 cases. The very first case he picked, case 17. And just like that, a big number was gone. It was a hit, no doubt about it, but Robert kept his composure. All the top amounts were still on the board, including the $1 million. He moved through the round case 10, case 14, case 22, knocking out mostly smaller amounts and keeping the dream alive. Then came case 5, another good result. But case 13? That was a bigger hit. Still, Robert had something that most players on this show would kill for a massive cushion on the bottom right of the board. $750,000 and $1 million were both still in play. The board was golden. Now let me ask you, if you were standing right here with $750,000 and $1 million still alive on that board, what would you do when the phone rang? The banker's first offer landed, $11,000. Now, for a North Carolina teacher and speech pathologist, $11,000 is real money. Robert knew that. He looked at the board, he thought about those animals at the shelter, those dogs and cats waiting for someone to care, and he made his decision. $11,000 wasn't enough. Not when there was a chance to change not just his life, but the lives of hundreds of animals who needed him.
No deal. No deal.
The second round was where things started getting interesting. Robert opened 5 more cases, and this is the round that made people sit up straight in their seats. Case 23, case 19 with $5,000, case 3, case 15, and then the final case with Patricia, who introduced herself as a silk fanatic, and apparently was his sister on the show. When the dust settled on round 2, the biggest amount Robert had knocked out was just $5,000. Let that sink in. 5 cases opened and the heaviest damage was $5,000. That is an absolutely phenomenal round. The board was still loaded with massive amounts. The banker came back with $35,000. Now that's real money. That could pay off debts, cover months of expenses, give someone real breathing room. But Robert's co-workers were right there in the audience. Dana, Debbie, and Betsy, all speech pathologists who adored him. They told America about how Robert gets right down on the kids' level, how the parents love him, how he's fun-loving and deeply compassionate. The only thing he couldn't do? Skip. The man literally had to learn how to skip on national television, and watching a grown man try to figure out skipping while playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars is the kind of moment that makes this show special. But when it came to this game, Robert wasn't skipping anything. No deal again. And here is where the game took a turn that nobody saw coming. Round 3. 4 cases to open. Robert picked case 21, and the audience gasped. $300,000 gone. Just like that, a huge chunk of the board was wiped clean in a single reveal. But here is the thing. Robert still had the 2 biggest amounts alive on that board, $750,000 and $1 million. The perfect game was still within reach. He kept going, and case 8 came through with a small amount. The crowd was back on their feet, screaming, believing. The banker called again. $52,000. Robert paused. You could see it in his eyes. This was almost a full year of salary for a speech pathologist in North Carolina. His friend Dana reminded him about the 200 dogs a year he could help with that kind of money. But Robert wanted more. He wanted to buy a house. He wanted to help as many abused and abandoned animals as possible. So he looked at that board, took a deep, shaky breath, and said the two words that define this show,
No deal.
And when Howie asked how it felt, Robert admitted it. It felt scary. Just a little bit scary. 3 more cases to open. Case 2, safe. Case 26, and this is the one Aunt Maddie Gay herself had called out, leaning over to whisper her pick safe. The $1 million was still in play. Robert was keeping every dream alive. The game continued, but now everything felt different. The stakes weren't just financial anymore. They were deeply, overwhelmingly personal. Robert opened 2 more cases and kept the board clean. The banker came back with $95,000. Now, would you take that? Seriously think about your answer before you hear what Robert decided. $95,000, guaranteed, no risk, right now. Robert's co-worker said it would pay off his car, his college loans, and still leave enough for a down payment on a house. She said, one more time, just give it one more round. And Robert made his choice. One more time, no deal. But from here, the game becomes something else entirely. And then Howie did something that absolutely shattered every single heart in that studio. He asked the audience if they wanted to support Robert. The crowd stood up, and from the back of the studio, a small figure emerged. It was Xavier, the little boy Robert hadn't seen in 2 years. The child who came to him completely unable to speak, now standing on that stage, walking toward the man who gave him a voice. Robert broke down. Xavier's mum Kim was there too, saying she couldn't think of anyone more deserving to be on that stage. And when Howie asked Xavier what he thought of Robert, the little boy said it loud and clear he would really support him. He wanted to make Robert's dreams come true because Robert had made his dreams come true first. Think about this for a second. Would you have been able to keep playing after that? Would you have been able to focus on numbers and odds and banker offers after looking into the eyes of a child whose life you transformed? Robert opened case 18 and the safety net snapped. The cushion that had been protecting him all game long was gone. Then case 7, and now the mathematics of this game were getting brutal. With $750,000 knocked off the board, the banker's offer actually dropped to $88,000, less than the previous offer. That is the kind of moment that makes your stomach drop. The momentum had shifted dramatically. Robert's supporters were split. Some said, keep going. Others were visibly nervous, shifting in their seats. But Robert was working on pure gut instinct now, and his gut said, keep playing. No deal again. Case 25 went to Summer, and when she revealed just $2,500, the studio absolutely erupted. The $1 million was still alive, still right there on that board, glowing like a beacon of hope. And with only 5 cases remaining, the banker had no choice but to come back with something serious. The new offer, $139,000. Biggest offer of the night by far. 1 in 5 chance of having the million. Robert's friends started talking counteroffer. This might be the moment, they said. And they were right, but the question was, how much could Robert ask for without scaring the banker away? Robert thought about it carefully. $200,000? Howie warned him too high, and the banker walks away. The counter has to be reasonable. It has to be a number that makes mathematical sense given the board. Too greedy, and the entire offer disappears, forcing Robert to open another case with absolutely no safety net. After going back and forth with his supporters, Robert landed on his number $185,000. A bold move, a calculated risk, the kind of play that either wins you the game or haunts you for the rest of your life. Howie asked Robert one final question before making the call. If the banker accepted and Robert walked out with $185,000, how would he feel if his case turned out to be holding the million? Robert's answer was pure Robert Evans. He said he would let out a big sigh, a little dramatic sigh, because of course he would. The man lives for soap opera drama, but that $185,000 would totally change his life. He could help people. He could buy a house. He could stop checking his bank account with dread every single day. And most importantly, those abused animals, those little ones who get to him every single time. He could finally help them the way he always dreamed. The counter was in. Howie picked up the phone. The studio went dead silent. You could feel the tension like electricity in the air. Xavier was watching. Aunt Maddie Gay stopped rocking. Every single person in that room held their breath. Would you have made that counteroffer, or would you have taken the guaranteed $139,000 and walked away safe? What would you do right now if you were standing in Robert's shoes? The banker's answer came through, and what followed was one of the most emotional endings this show has ever produced. The reveal of what was in the remaining cases, what the offers would have been had Robert continued, What could have happened if he played just one more round? It all played out in a way that nobody in that audience will ever forget. Robert Evans, the soap opera enthusiast from Booger Swamp Road, the man who taught a silent child to speak, the champion of every abandoned animal waiting for someone to care. He played this game with the same heart and courage he brings to everything in his life. And as Robert left that stage skipping, by the way, because he finally learned how Howie said it best. These are the days of Robert Evans' life. And what remarkable days they turned out to be. So, here's my question. At which offer would you have stopped? Would you have taken the $95,000 and walked away safe? Or would you have done what Robert did and pushed for something bigger?